least the part of it that smelled like pine sap and motor oil and the ghosts of 3 generations. Splintered beams, crushed windows, the air thick with diesel and betrayal. My grandfather built this cabin in 1962 with hands that came home from Korea scarred but steady. He carved every railing himself, left initials in the doorframe like an artist signing a painting. Now all of that is rubble under a bulldozer track. You ever see your whole childhood flattened into landfill? It makes a sound you don't forget. They tore it down 5 days ago. No permit, no call, no right. Just a smug HOA president with a clipboard and a bulldozer operator who didn't ask questions. They thought I was too broken to fight back. They didn't know who I was. My name's Marcus A.L., county building inspector for 18 years. Every demolition, every permit, every asbestos report in this county passes across my desk. You could say I know the rules better than anyone, which means I also know exactly how to bury someone who breaks them. Let me rewind. 6 weeks before the rubble, before the smell of diesel soaked into my skin, my father died. Tuesday morning, heart attack in his recliner. Braves game still playing. 73 years old. He was my last link to this place. We always said we'd retire here. 2 old men fishing off the same dock my grandfather built. That cabin wasn't a house. It was a promise. After the funeral, I was in Memphis handling paperwork, estate nonsense. While I was scattering my father's ashes, a certified letter was waiting back home. Notice of non-compliance and remediation. According to the Pine Hollow Shores Homeowners Association, my grandfather's cabin was a visual blight on community property values. 14 days to repaint, remove the dock, and tear down his old tool shed, or they do it for me at my expense. Thing is, my cabin sat on that land 40 years before their HOA ever existed. I had every document, survey maps, original permits. Continuous family ownership, legally untouchable. But the HOA president, a woman named Clara Whitford, didn't care about legal, she cared about control. 3 days after the funeral, I requested an emergency board meeting. Maybe I was naive. Thought if I showed them proof, they'd back off. Instead, I walked into a tribunal, 6 board members sitting behind a folding table in a room that smelled like store-bought cookies and arrogance. Clara in her white blazer at the head. Mr. A.L., she said, voice dipped in artificial sympathy. We all respect your family's history, but rules are rules. I laid out the documents, grandfathered exemption, county code, deed. She didn't even glance down. We've consulted attorneys, she said. Your non-compliance is documented. 14 days or we take corrective action. I asked, corrective action? You mean demolition? She smiled without moving her eyes. If necessary, the guy beside her, younger, tanned, same last name. Her son, as I'd learned later. Derek Whitford, owner of Whitford and Sons Construction. Convenient, right? The board voted 6-0. Authorization granted. I left that meeting thinking I'd handle it through the right channels. File for injunction, talk to county attorney. I'm not just some random homeowner they can bully. I'm the one who approves their building permits. I assumed they'd stay within the law. That was my mistake. 5 days later, while I was still in Memphis closing my father's estate, they sent the bulldozers. I found out from my neighbor Lyle, 71, retired fisherman. He called me in a panic. Marcus, they're here. Trucks, heavy equipment. Claire is standing in your driveway. I told him to put me on video. What I saw made my blood freeze. A bulldozer blade bit into my grandfather's porch like it was cardboard. The railing he carved split in half. Diesel smoke rolled across the lake. I called the sheriff right there, still watching it on my phone. Someone's demolishing my property at 47 Lakeview Drive without permits. The dispatcher sighed like she'd heard this before. Sir, we have a report that the homeowner was notified. I am the homeowner, I snapped. And I'm in Memphis burying my father. That is an illegal demolition. There's no permit, no asbestos inspection, no hazardous waste authorization. Check your system. She put me on hold. I listened to the sound of my family's history turning into dust. When she came back, her tone had shifted to bureaucratic indifference. Sir, the HOA representative on site presented a court order. There is no court order, I said, but she'd already hung up. By the time I caught the next flight home, the cabin was gone. 11 hours of destruction, reduced 60 years of craftsmanship to splinters. I pulled into the property after dark, headlights sweeping across what looked like a bomb site, and there, staked into the ground, was a laminated sign. Per Pine Hollow Shores, AO Bylaw 14.3, non-compliant structure removed. Restoration cost $31,800. Invoice to follow. She actually billed me for demolishing my own home. That's when grief turned into precision. I opened my county inspection app right there under the floodlight. Demolition permits filed, 0. Asbestos inspection, 0. Hazardous disposal, 0. Clara Whitford had just committed 3 felonies and left a contamination hazard beside a public lake. I knelt down, picked up a chunk of railing, still warm from the sun, ran my thumb along my grandfather's chisel marks, and whispered, "You built it by hand, Grandpa. I'll handle the rest by law." I didn't sleep. By sunrise, I drafted my list. Not revenge documentation. First, file police report. Second, hire attorney. Third, audit everything she's ever touched. Detective Carla Reyes, who'd worked fraud cases with me before, met me at the station. I showed her the footage, the forged order, the sign, the dates. "Marcus," she said, "this is felony destruction of property, but HOAs get messy. They'll hide behind bylaws. Then we show those bylaws are lies." Next stop was attorney Judith Kwan, an older Korean-American bulldog in reading glasses who'd shredded more OA boards than I'd inspected roofs. She listened without interrupting, then smiled a predator's smile. "We're not just suing," she said. "We're auditing. HOAs are nonprofits. Sunshine laws mean full financial disclosure. Let's see where the dues went." 3 days later, she called me back. Excitement in her voice. "You might want to sit down. Turns out Pine Hollow Shores collected $470,000 a year from 87 homes. Only $290,000 spent. $180,000 missing annually for 3 straight years. $500,000 gone. Guess where it went? Whitford and Sons landscaping invoices 3 times market rate. Legal fees to Clara's disbarred brother-in-law. Administrative expenses, spa visits, restaurant tabs, and her Lexus lease. The woman was embezzling HOA money to pay for facials and car payments. Then came the smoking gun. An email between Clara and her son 3 days before the demolition. Handle the AAL problem permanently. Bill it as emergency remediation. Usual split. Derek replied, "Done. He'll be too broken to fight back." I didn't shake. I smiled. She just signed her own demolition order, I told Judith. But that wasn't enough. I wanted the rot ripped out by the roots. So I started conducting official county inspections on every property Whitford and Sons built in the last 3 years. 11 houses. What I found could have filled a safety training manual from hell. No fire stops, faulty venting, railing heights illegal, gas lines running into drywall. 60+ violations, all life-threatening. Each homeowner got a notice. 30 days to remedy or daily fines. By the next morning, Derek was calling me, voice shaking. "You're harassing my clients." "No, I said I'm saving them from your shortcuts. That's what inspectors do." 2 hours later, Clara herself called. "Mr. Abel, you're abusing your position for revenge." "Funny," I said. "Coming from someone who bulldozed a house without permits. You want to talk abuse? Let's start there." She hung up. Judith kept digging. When the HOA's financials arrived, she found another bomb. Clara had sold a downtown warehouse 2 years ago, claiming it was fully renovated with no recorded permits. 23 families living in an unsafe building. That's real estate fraud. I scheduled an emergency inspection for the next morning. The place had exposed wiring, no occupancy certificate, a fire trap waiting for headlines. I filed the report, copied the district attorney. By nightfall, Clara's empire was bleeding from every seam, but fate wasn't done handing me ammunition. Down in the county archives, basement smell of dust and bureaucracy. I found the 1958 master deed for the entire lake area. It included a restriction nobody alive remembered. Any demolition of pre-existing structures requires unanimous county board approval. Violation results in property reversion to county for conservation. That meant Clara's illegal demolition didn't just break environmental law. It technically voided every homeowner's title in Pine Hollow Shores. The entire development could revert to county ownership. I called Judith. "You might want to pour a drink," I said, then read paragraph 7. She was silent for a beat. Then, "Marcus, that's leverage. Nuclear leverage. We decided to use it not to punish innocent homeowners, but to end the HOA forever. The plan? Criminal charges for Clara and Derek, dissolution of the HOA, creation of a voluntary neighborhood association, county oversight, restitution from their personal assets. Everyone else kept their homes. The tyrants lost theirs. For 3 weeks, we built the case. Elle's garage became our war room. Evidence pinned on court boards, demolition, fraud, code violations. Detective Reyes joined us. Warrant paperwork ready. The mandatory HOA annual meeting was October 28th. Attendance required. Perfect stage. The night before, Clara tried one last trick. Fake social media accounts accusing me of corruption. Even dragging my daughter Sierra, who's a designer in Portland. Within hours, neighbors defended me publicly, sharing stories of inspections I'd done that saved them from gas leaks and fires. Her smear campaign backfired. Then Derek showed up at Elle's dock, tried to bribe him, offered to rebuild my cabin for free if we dropped the case. When Elle refused, Derek hinted that accidents happen on docks. Elle recorded everything. Witness intimidation, 2 more felonies. Finally, an email from County HR. Clara filed a complaint demanding my suspension. My supervisor, a tough old administrator named Pat Vance, called me in, held up the papers, and said, "Transparent retaliation. I'm dismissing it. Off the record, Marcus, bury her." By the time the meeting day arrived, the storm was ready. That evening, the community center parking lot overflowed. News vans outside, cameras inside. 80-plus homeowners buzzing with anger and curiosity. I walked in wearing my county badge, not as weapon, as witness. Clara sat up front like royalty, pearls gleaming, son beside her sweating through his shirt. She banged the gavel. "Before we begin, I must address certain unfounded allegations." I stood. "Madam President, under State Statute 47.3, I have the right to present evidence of fiduciary breach before any other business." Her smile faltered. My attorney, Judith, rose beside me. "It's the law," she said. Clara's own fake attorney nodded miserably. I started the projector. First slide, my grandfather's cabin, golden light on the lake. This was my family's home. Built 1962, demolished September 23rd. While I buried my father. Gasps. Next slide, video footage. Clara in my driveway, clipboard in hand, directing the bulldozer, wood cracking, dust rising, no permit, no inspection, no containment. I said felony, destruction of property, and environmental contamination. Judith took over, clicking through charts. Your dues? $470,000 a year. Only $290 spent. Here's where the rest went. Colorful bars showed spa expenses. Fake legal fees, inflated contracts. Murmurs rose to shouting. Then she projected the email. "Handle the Able problem permanently." The room exploded. "You stole from us," someone yelled. I stepped forward and Derek built 11 homes here with 63 code violations. Fire hazards, toxic venting, unsafe railings. I inspected them myself. He risked your families for profit. A mother stood trembling. "We have children. Our attic has those vents." Clara lunged for the mic. "This is a witch hunt." Judith's voice cut through. "Would you like to repeat that under oath? The district attorney is watching." Silence. Then Detective Reyes stepped forward. "Badge out. Clara Whitford, Derek Whitford, stand up." 2 deputies entered. "You are under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and destruction of property." The room erupted into applause as the cuffs clicked. Clara turned to me, eyes wide. "You ruined me." I met her gaze. "No, Clara, you ruined yourself. I just turned on the lights." When they let her out under the camera flashes, it felt like the lake itself was exhaling after holding its breath for years. But justice isn't just punishment, it's repair. Once the noise settled, Judith addressed the crowd. Because of the deed violation, the HOA technically no longer exists. Here's the plan. She laid it out. HOA dissolved, funds recovered, restitution paid, fines waived, county oversight established. Homeowners cheered. They elected Lyle as new neighborhood chair, Mrs. Nova, the retired CPA, as treasurer, and a local teacher as secretary. Real people, not tyrants. Then I added, "We're also restoring public lake access as the original deed required. A new dock, walking trail, and a bronze plaque for my grandfather, Hank A.L., master carpenter, veteran, believer that this lake belongs to everyone. L stood, voice thick. I knew Hank. Best man I ever met. Let's call it Hank's Landing. The vote was unanimous. I couldn't speak for a moment, just nodded. 6 months later, spring sunlight danced on fresh water as volunteers hammered the last boards on my rebuilt cabin. 23 families showed up bringing sandwiches, beer, and laughter. The new cedar siding smelled sharp and clean, but when I ran my hand over the railing carved in my grandfather's pattern, it felt like home again. Clara pleaded guilty to 6 felonies, 3 years minimum, 18 months served. Her Lexus auctioned, her house foreclosed. Derek got 2 years and permanent license revocation. Their stolen funds $540,000 redistributed to homeowners. Average payout $6,000 each. Some used it for repairs. Others donated to the scholarship fund we created. The Hank A.L. Memorial Scholarship for kids learning skilled trades. The first ceremony was held on the new dock, sunlight on the water, laughter echoing where bulldozers once growled. My daughter Sierra filmed it for her channel, OA Horror Stories, now with 90,000 followers pushing for reform laws nationwide. Even the state legislature took notice. They passed the Homeowner Protection Act, mandatory audits, easier HOA dissolution, demolition without consent classified as automatic felony. They called it Hank's Law. The governor signed it with me standing beside him. Sometimes I still come down here at dawn, coffee in hand, listening to loons calling across the lake the way they did when I was 10. The dock hacks under my boots solid again while fishing 2 lots down. The air smells like cedar and peace. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that bullies hide behind paperwork until someone reads the fine print louder than they do. My grandfather built with wood. I build with law. Different tools, same purpose to make something that lasts. So, if you're watching this and your HOA is measuring your grass or threatening letters while you're trying to live your life, don't roll over. Check the records. Talk to your neighbors. Demand transparency because justice doesn't come from titles or clipboards. It comes from people who refuse to be flattened. Drop your own HOA stories in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, what battles you fought, what lines you've drawn in your own yard, and share this video with someone who thinks they're powerless. Because maybe they just need to be reminded that sometimes the quiet guy with a toolbox and a badge is the storm coming for the tyrants. Justice, it turns out, sounds a lot like hammering nails into fresh,